Good morning, my family. Today's topic is actually, I've had some questions about how I plan for my garden season. So I am going to give you some examples of that. I use this pantry challenge as you've been seeing the meals that I'm preparing. But this pantry challenge is just more than how I use what I do throughout the summer as far as preserving. It becomes a bigger picture for me. Um, During the pantry challenge, I evaluate what I've done throughout the season, how well it worked for me and my family, and basically for me and my husband. And I'm going to show you some prime examples of this as well. So when I start out, I like this year, I grew all my vegetables and I added a few things here and there. I added flowers and stuff like that. And I found toward the end of my season, even even though the heat basically destroyed our crops, we didn't get as much as I had anticipated. Things like that happen. Just know that what you decide you're going to do is is going to be a hit or miss sometimes. Sometimes you're going to get an abundance. Sometimes you're probably going to get very little. But the point that I'm making to this is what we grow really matters. When you think of preparing your garden, think about your family. Think about everybody in your family. What do they like? What they don't like? Um, think about what you would like to have as far as extras. And do you have the space? I have some prime examples for all of this, and this video is going to be a broad span, something usually not talked about, but something to consider, because a lot of you, if you're thinking about becoming homesteaders or preserving to save in your pantries like we do, these are vital information you really need to know. So my first step is we're going back to the pantry, and I'm going to show you some details as to what this pantry shows me. It is really, really important. I will start out with last year, before my husband's diagnosis, I ended up already starting in about spring, and some of this was carried over from last year. Now, mind you, when you can, these these products that you can last a year or two. Well, it can actually last longer, but for me, general rule, I try not to go more than 2 years at a time. So I had some remaining leftover canned goods that I had done, but in June of last year, everything changed. So I ended up cleaning out my pantry and blessing others. And I'm still in that process right now. I've got 2 boxes sitting here just full of jars that we cannot still use. In some sense of it, I I get comfortable with blessing another family, but the other sense of it, because jars are so expensive, I can only pray that I can get my jars back. So we'll find out how this goes. But I'm going to take you into the pantry and I'm going to show you an inventory list. And when you do this, you definitely want an inventory list, because it's going to make you or break you. It's a form to be able to prepare for your garden, and I'm going to show you in detail what that means. So let's start with the pantry, and then I'm going to take you in other steps to show you the full aspect. First, I want to thank you. I understand that I am new at making videos, and some of you have been trying to help me. I am learning new aspects about this phone I never knew about, so hopefully my videos will be more improved as we go on. I found some things this morning that I didn't know I had, so hopefully these videos become more improved. You help me improve every day, and I thank you for that. And you're kind about it. I really appreciate you for that as well. Being kind really does a lot better on somebody's self-esteem than being nasty. So thank you so much, and I'm listening to you. So with that, I'm going to let that go. Let's go to the pantry, and I'm going to show you the inventory that I'm taking and the method to my madness when it comes to growing this year. So I'm going to pause this, and we're going to go to that room. Okay, so when I'm in this room, I take my inventory and what I have. I look at what we're going through the fastest and what we're going through the slowest, and some of my examples. Now, my green beans, I am finding that these green beans that we're going through this pantry, now, mind you, the pantry challenge for us lasts a couple of months. We're going to use at least 2 months worth. So within those 2 months, I want to find out what I'm going through and what I'm not going through. So green beans, I am seeing, because they started out from the tip of this, we are actually going through these. The newest ones were our blueberries, and then I have my salsa. So as I come down here, I have my broths. Now, I did manage to do a lot of broth. Now, this will probably take me the whole entire year to go through, because I did do a lot, which means I don't have to put any more on here. But then there becomes this other method, again, just like gardening, space. Does that space get filled up for something else I could use or not use? So we have our beef broth or bone broth, and then we have our chicken broths. So I'm looking at what I'm going through. And then our newest one is our Dijon mustard. Now this is going to last us a while. That means this space on my pantry is going to be filled. The one I'm finding that I may change, and it's actually a big change. These are my black beans. However, even though they are a complex carb, they can still spike my husband's sugar. So I have to consider, was this a good option for me to take up the space on this shelf from something else I could have used? So, and the prime example for that is because I have black beans, and then I'll come down here. This is a little darker, and I apologize because this is a very small room. But then I have my northern beans like this. I've got my ham and beans. I have black-eyed peas and ham. So I'm looking at I actually have a lot of bean sources. I have red beans. Was this space a smart move? At this point, I'm thinking no, because I just took up space in my pantry that I could use for something else. And that wasn't a good method for me. So now I have the choice of two things. Do I take all this hard work and basically do the one thing I hate the most, and that's discarding what I've done? Or do I leave these sit on here for as long as it takes? Now, when I think about that side of it, you have to understand that even though preserving our food is fantastic, over time, it starts to lose its flavor. So I have a lot to think about. And at this point, I have thought, well, in my thoughts of, oh, I'm going to fill my pantry, I'm making some wrong decisions. This is what's good about the pantry challenge, because I can evaluate what was good, what was bad, and what I could have improved. Now, there are areas like this one here, my tomato sauces. Now, honestly, I don't have enough. So these spaces with the beans were taken up because I needed this for tomatoes. And I also realized at this point, I need to grow more tomatoes to accommodate everything I need. And I'll give you an example. These rows here are nothing but my sauce. Now they go from here all the way to that back end, if you can see it. In 2 months' time, I will probably go through this quite a bit. But then there was some new things that came up since my husband's diagnosis, and that was the sugar-free ketchup. I only have 2 jars. This is honestly probably not going to make me 2 months. So I have to reevaluate on the space that I'm using and the choices that I'm making when I'm growing. I have 2 half pints of tomato paste. This definitely isn't going to make enough. So I have to think about these options. So tomatoes, as it seems right now, this is going to be my biggest decision, and I need to grow more tomato plants. So, and I have my tomato juice. Will I go through this? Honestly, I'm not sure at this point that we're going to go through them that much. So this again was space used, and I have 3 quarts of this that was space used that might not have been a good choice for me. And then I look at my French onion soup. Okay, this was a great way to be able to produce a soup on my pantry. But again, I'm looking at this choice. Let me see if we can get this. No, I got 3 more jars up here. So this whole section right here. Oh, sorry about this, y'all. This whole section about this whole thing here. It goes from this front side all the way to the back, and then I have a few more back here. For me and my husband, am I seriously going to go through that much fresh onion soup? And how long is this going to sit on my pantry? Again, space. What could I have used the most of? There are areas that I need to readjust this pantry so that it fulfills our needs and be able to have the space to do that. So I do have some things that I'm going through this pantry that I'm realizing what wasn't a good choice and what was. Now, my meat section. This is a good choice. I am pretty much already going through our chili. So I do know that chili was a good choice for us. I have my chicken and my turkey up here. This was a good choice for us. When it comes to meat, this is the only area I seem to do really good at, because we do use this, and if the freezer goes low during the pantry, I do have another meat source. But as you see, I keep it, let me see if we can give you a broad spectrum of this. I keep it to a point where it's manageable. This is my good decisions. This area here is my decisions on I need to adjust, because I've got to accommodate my husband's needs and be able to preserve. So this became a new challenge for me, is what to really put on here, because I cannot do corn anymore. I can't do carrots anymore. So what can I put on this shelf? It's okay to have some beans, but did I need 30 something jars of beans at this point, as far as dried beans? That was not a good decision. So I'm left in that space, what I'm going to do, and figure out new methods. I'm hoping this is helping you. So now I'm going to go to another section, which we are going outside to the garden, and I'm going to show you some other things that's going to accommodate in my head about my gardening. So the next step will be out there. Okay, so at this point we're going to go by spacing. Now, mind you, this is winter, so everything is not to the par where it should be, but this is, at this area here, my herb bed. Do I have enough space for all the herbs I would like to grow? And if not, I have to accommodate them. So I did invest in these black grow pots. My opinion about these grow pots is they are great for your herbs and small plants and stuff like this. They're an actual spacing method that's movable. They're great. There's only one issue that I did find out last year about this, is they are so well drained that they dry out faster than anything I have in my beds. So if you decide to use grow pots, the fabric ones, please know that they will dry out a lot quicker than anything that you can put into a ground. However, again, they are a good way of being able to make space for more. So I have to figure out how I'm going to work this to be able to accommodate us, because I am looking at growing a lot, and I'm going to show or explain to you later what I'm looking at growing more of and less of. So we have this 10-footer. Now this side of the 10-footer here is used for saffron flowers to a certain point of it. And I don't know if you can see this very well, but they are starting to come up. And actually this is their first year. They may not even produce flowers. They are a perennial, so they'll come back. With that, they are a perennial. So this small space right here is what I have to grow with, because the outside edges are done with my saffron. So did I make a good choice in doing this as far as saving space? I'm going to have to figure that one out. This side here has my spring flowers that are perennial. I'm going to find out this year, because I just planted them last year. I'm going to see if they're going to grow back or not. If not, then that's extra space I can use. I ended up using this 10-foot spacing for perennials, and I'm wondering at this point, did I make a right decision? Where on this side, we had planted this together, and this was our lettuce bed. Now I also have those 20-footers, and I'm going to show you something once we walk over there. The choices on these 20-footers and where they're set up. So I'll be right back with you. Okay, so when I think about how these were set up, this one here that is uncovered in the summertime gets a lot of sun. This one right here, this one stays more shaded, because right now, if you look at these trees, a lot of them, there's no leaves on them because we are in winter. But when the summer comes around, these are full. When that gets full, it shades off my greenhouse to a certain point time of the day. So they're not getting as much. Anything that I grow in here doesn't get as much sunlight as this one does. So I have to accommodate what can I grow that will be able to grow successfully in part shade. Now the grow pots, I told you I had gone crazy with these things, and I have quite a bit of them. So these were space savers. These were extra ways that I could grow. But I have to know that because I use these, I'm going to have to water them an awful lot. So, and I've got them like seriously all the way. I think I have about 30 of these grow pots, and these are the 5-gallon. Now I have this bed now. We had tried onions in this bed, and last year they came out okay. So this year I have an extra space. What do I want to do with this? This gets beautiful sunlight, well-drained soil. It's a nice box. So I have another space that I can utilize. These swimming pools, now here was something I grew last year, which was a specialty, and I was doing sesame seeds. They didn't fare very well, and then the ones that did do well, I didn't catch them in time, so the seeds got replanted in this bed, and I'm actually going to find out this year if they're going to resprout or not. So right now it's too cool, but when spring comes, these should be popping back up. So we're going to find out, was this space I could use something else for, or was this something that is going to come back, and do I really need it? Things to think about. So I'm going to take you back inside now, and I'm going to finish where I'm going with this. Okay, so where am I going with all of this and what I'm going to show you? I am in the process now, because in the next 5 to 6 weeks, I'm going to be able to start growing some of our plants for spring. Like tomatoes and peppers, you can actually start doing these seedlings anywhere from 5 to 8 weeks before your last frost. So I'm going to have to set my greenhouse effects up so that I can set these tomato plants that I'm looking at, and pepper plants, because they take the longest to grow. So I am sitting there last night with my husband making out my garden plans, and I have to stop and think, what is best for us? Last year I did a lot of specialty plants. Did I need them? As I look back, no. Those were spaces I could have used for something I really needed. So it came to, I planted extra flowers. For some people, this may be good, but for me, it wasn't so good because I'm a homesteader. I preserve and I lack. I actually, going through our garden plans, I realized I need way more tomatoes than I planted last year. I do two types. I do slicing tomatoes and I do paste tomatoes. My paste tomatoes, like Martinos or Amish paste or Romas. These are fantastic to make your ketchup from, your tomato paste from. They're actually made for that, and I did not have enough of them. I think I only planted 2 plants, and in my pantry, you see the effects is I have 2 small jars of tomato paste. I ended up buying it from the grocery store. I have 2 jars of the sugar-free ketchup. That's not going to last me. So I need more tomato paste. I hope I'm making sense here. That means I'm going to have to grow more paste tomatoes. My slicing tomatoes I can use are fantastic to make tomato sauce with. So I need to up my tomatoes so that I can make sure I have enough tomato products on my shelf. Bell peppers. I did a small amount of bell peppers, and here's what I found. In the wintertime and during the pantry challenge, bell peppers are fantastic to use during the summer, but they're also really good for preserving, whether you dehydrate them or freeze them. I prefer to freeze them. If I would have produced enough bell peppers, I could have chopped them, froze them, and I could have had them this winter instead of having to go to the grocery store because I'm running out of bell peppers. So that tells me in my planning, I need to grow more bell peppers. Jalapenos. Now I've got 6 little 4-ounce jars of sliced jalapenos. I did 1 plant last year. So I'm thinking maybe this year I need to grow 2. We don't go through an awful lot of them, but when I think about salsa, I need them for salsa. When I make sliced jalapenos, so 2 to 3, I have to figure out where is the best balance to be able to accommodate what I need for my pantry. Green beans, we definitely go through green beans, so I'm going to have to accommodate for pole and bush beans. And the reason I'm doing for both, because the pole beans make great cut beans and the bush beans make really nice French cut. I don't want to overdo it though, because I could end up like my dried beans, an overabundance that the 2 of us are not going to go through for a season. I'd like to keep our storing and our pantry for a season, but I do tend to accommodate it for at least a year through the summer. So I'm reevaluating what was good, and these pantry challenges help me to prepare for the next seasons and next year. So some of the vegetables that I've learned that I have done, the squash, yellow squash and zucchini, I've learned through this pantry challenge that fresh is best. Frozen was not too good, and I've showed you examples of why. So for me, fresh was, it's crisp, it's amazing. But when I froze them, it was more mush. So I ended up doing what I hate the most. I waste. I do not want to waste. I know it's a seed, but still, wasting food is never good. Making the right decisions is what helps us to prevent waste. I do want to grow popcorn. So when I showed you all the spacing that I took up last year, and I have perennials, I took up space for the new ones that I want to do, like popcorn this year. Where am I going to plant this? How am I going to do this? So I have to think about all that. My cucumbers. Now, I don't can a lot of pickles, and I have enough pickle dill relish right now that I really don't need anymore. So when I think about my cucumbers, I'm going to think about planting for fresh. I have a few other things now. Our lettuce bed, I need to accommodate this very well because we love salad, and I'm not liking the prices at the grocery store. So I'm going to think about a space that I can continually keep producing my salad mixes or bunching onions. So I have to accommodate this. My herbs, I don't like buying dried herbs from the store when I can produce my own, dehydrate or dry my own, and have them on my shelf. So I have to accommodate that by growing more. So again, I'm really hoping this is helping you when you go to plan your garden. Think about your family. Think about each one's needs, likes, dislikes, and try to accommodate in a big picture what is best for you and your family. If you plan on preserving like I do, and like many other homesteaders do, think about the long term. When I first started this homesteading 4 years ago, and I'm still learning through that, and know that something came in the midst of everything for what we once knew and had to what we have to accommodate now for this new. And that new would be that my husband was diagnosed as a diabetic. So what I had previously had was no longer in effect. And I do have to find something to do with all this. And the smart decisions, I thought, again, with these beans, at one point this would have been good. However, it's not so good now. I have a lot of space taken up, and now I have to figure out how I'm actually going to accommodate that space without waste. And sadly, it may come down to waste. It's a lesson learned. So these plans are absolutely necessary for your future, for your big picture on what you want to do for your family, into your preserving, your freshness. And it starts out with writing it down, thinking about it, talking with your family, find out what their likes are. Where do you want to go with this? What is your goals? What are you buying the most of that you can do for yourself? Think about all these while you're making your plans, because growing a garden is beneficial and also can be a waste. If you have an abundance of something, say you decided that you wanted to plant 5 different types or 5 plants or more of yellow squash, do you have a plan for all those vegetables? Are you going to dehydrate them? Are you going to freeze them? Are you going to eat them fresh? If you get your fill of them, do you have a place or someone you know that could use the extra? Because these plants can tend to produce more than you can think they're doing. So, and I've had that situation. So have a plan. If you have something like I have run into that you grew and you find you don't have enough, then write this down, keep record, make sure that you have that plan for next year. And know, like me, I didn't grow enough bell peppers. So this year my plans are I'm wanting to grow more. So these are how I do it. Now, I haven't started everything yet, but my plans for this year, and I put in categories for canning, freezing vegetables. I am looking at definitely more tomatoes, tomatillos, because I can make green tomatillo salsa or salsa verde. I'm looking at paste tomatoes, bell peppers. These are the ones I'm looking at growing more of. Jalapenos, there's a limit to it. Green beans, again, it's a good thing, but there is also a limit to it because they can produce. Now, bush beans, I will tell you, bush beans are the type that they grow all at once, like a determinate tomato. They'll produce on your plant. What you get is what you're going to get. They don't just keep coming back all the time. So I may accommodate that by adding more bush beans for my French cut green beans than my pole beans, versus in that stance where they keep producing and keep coming back, and you can have so many green beans you won't know what to do with. I can freeze them and I can can them, but do I want to take up, again, the long big picture, that space? So I have to think about how much I'm willing to do for 2 people, and do I have a backup plan if I get way too many? Spaghetti squash is another one I would like to do. Now, in that, I wouldn't grow no more than 2. I try to grow 2 of everything because of the chance of one may germinate, one may not. However, what if both do germinate? You don't want to really just destroy that plant. You have that option, but I'm going to tell you it's not easy. So you have that choice is, okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and keep these. Now, what if they produce extremely well? The one thing I do know about spaghetti squash, again, and I gave a brief message about that, was spaghetti squash is great for storing in the winter in a cool, dark place. They can last up to 6 months, and that's amazing. But now I want to think space-wise and responsibility without waste. How much spaghetti squash are we going to go through for the winter? How long will it carry me through the spring? So I have to, when I think about my garden plans, think about how much do I really need or want, and do I have a backup plan? So that same thing with all my herbs. This is how I plan my garden. It's not just a garden that I'm planning for. I'm planning for the whole big picture, preserving, using what we have, what I need more of, what I need less of, and how do I avoid waste, and do I have a backup plan should I have an abundance. So I really hope this video is helping you when you start planning, because spring is coming right around the corner for a lot of us. Some of you, God bless you folks, you still have a few months, and I get that. But this is a good time to really start sitting down and planning what you want to do. So with that, I'm hoping I helped in a manner to be able to sit down and think about that. I'm hoping that it gives you an idea of what you can do with your vegetables, or any of the things that you're wanting to plan in life to be able to store a pantry, fill your freezer. Another thing to think about is using. How are you going to use these products that you're producing? That's one reason why I'm doing the Pantry Challenge meals, is because I'm showing you how to use what you preserved. So you got to think about this. It's great. It's exciting. When I first started this, I'll be honest with you, I went crazy because I didn't look at the big picture. I looked at the here and now, and I found, as I was learning how to can, the one thing that I learned was, wow, I can do this, I can do that. So I went crazy and I started doing all this, and there ended up being a big problem in the end of that. What am I going to do with it all now? I have all of these jars, I have all of this food, but what am I going to do with it? So the techniques in growing a garden becomes much bigger when you look at a point of, do you just want to grow just to eat fresh fruits and vegetables? Or do you want to grow to preserve? Make your plans accordingly to your family's needs, wants, and how you like to be able to have your garden. Do you want future, or do you want the here and now? So I'm hoping I'm pointing out the bigger picture when it comes to growing. Now, if you are a patio grower wanting to step your foot into the waters and see how much you like this, that's a fantastic way to do this. Start small, work your way up. Don't do like I did. And these are my flaws that I had started with, and I'm sharing them with you, let you know my mistakes. So when I first started, I knew I had a big enough property as a homesteader. I could grow so much. But in the process of growing so much, I had a lot of failures. I had a lot of, what am I going to do with this? I didn't know what to do with it. I learned over time about preserving. I learned over time of what I'd like to use to cook with it, such as zucchini. You can shred it, freeze it, and you can make zucchini bread. But how much zucchini bread are you seriously going to make? So think about these things. Preparing is very essential, but think in a big picture and not just a small stance as I can grow a garden. Well, what are you going to do with this afterwards? So this is the reason I decided to make this video, because I have literally, in my research, and I seem to be the research queen, and through my experiences, these were the mistakes that I have made, or the decisions that I made that were not so wise. Some I needed more, less. So I'm really hoping this is helping you. This is a season to sit down. This is a season to plan carefully and to think about your family. This is a season to think about, what do you want out of this? Are you wanting to be a homesteader, or are you wanting to be a gardener? Think about what you really want. Experiment. I mean, there's nothing wrong with experimenting, but experiment small so you don't have to have waste. Because I'm going to tell you, in your gut, when you waste, it's going to hurt. So I've had a lot of waste that has absolutely hurt, because when you put in so much time in a lot of this, you don't want to have to discard. So I'm learning these methods myself, and like I said, I'm going on 5 years, but there's still so much to learn. There's new things that come up unexpectedly in life, so I have to think about these things, and sometimes stuff happens, and now I have to figure out what I want to do, and that's where I'm at. So I'm hoping, again, I know I keep saying that, I really do sincerely hope this is helping you. And if there is something that I have missed that you'd like to know, please leave them in the comments below, and I will try to answer you. I don't always have the time to answer everybody, and I sincerely apologize to that. But when I try to get the chance, I'll go back and I'll look at some of the things that you've been saying, y'all, and I will try to get back to you as much as I can. I want to thank you so much for your dedication with us, for spending the time with me, and in return, I'm hoping I'm giving you greater. I'm hoping that I'm explaining things that I didn't know or I couldn't find that you could use. So I will end this video until our meal this evening. I hope you have a very blessed day, and much, much love to you from Carrie and Parton's Heritage Homestead.